Hello mathematicians, welcome back for another math video. Today we'll be covering some quick skills that you'll need for our upcoming lessons. So some skills you'll need to be familiar with are your multiplication facts, listing the factors and multiples of numbers, simplifying fractions, finding the least common denominator, and converting mixed numbers to fractions greater than 1. Let's get started. So the first skill I'd like to talk about is our multiplication facts. Now, your 7th grade math teachers know that memorizing these facts don't make you stronger or better at math than somebody else. But it is important to be familiar with these math facts and notice patterns in how the numbers are related. This can help you demonstrate fluency and proficiency moving on with our lessons this chapter. It's going to come in handy if you're familiar with these facts. So if you feel like you need to brush up on your skills, what you can do is download the Flash to Pass app from Self-Service and practice your facts. For our next skill, let's list the factors and multiples of numbers. Remember that factors are numbers we can multiply together to get another number, and multiples are the result of multiplying a number by an integer. So first let's list the factors of 24. I know that 1 times 24 gives me 24. I know that 2 times 12 gives me 24. I'm looking for numbers that when multiplied together equal 24. So 3 times 8 give me 24. And 4 times 6 also give me 24. So those are all of the factors of 24. Now let's list the factors of 7. So I know that 7 is a prime number, so the factors of 7 are just 1 and 7 only. Now let's list the multiples of 2 and 7. Okay, you can think of multiples as counting by, repeated addition, or as multiplication. So for 2, I'm going to use the count by method. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, and so on. So I've listed the first 10 multiples of 2. Or you could think about it as repeated addition. So 7 plus 7 is 14. 14 plus 7 is 21. Or I could think of it as multiplication. So multiply this number by an integer. So 7 times 1 is 7, 7 times 2 is 14, 7 times 3 is 21, 7 times 4 is 28, and 7 times 5 is 35. 7 times 6 is 42, 7 times 7 is 49, 7 times 8 is 56, 7 times 9 is 63, and 7 times 10 is 70. Now I could keep going, but I've listed the first 10 multiples of 7. Now it's your turn to try it. List the factors of the following numbers, 36, 20, and 13, and list the multiples of the following numbers, 11, 4, and 9. Stop, try it on your own, and then press play when you're ready for me to reveal the answers. Okay, compare what you wrote down to the answers. And take note here, for 36, the multiples of 36 are 1, 36, 2 and 18, 3 and 12, 4 and 9, and 6. So because 6 times 6 equals 36, I only have to list 6 as a factor one time. Correct any errors that you made, and then let's move on to the next skill. Okay, on to our next skill of simplifying fractions. Let's write each number as a fraction in simplest form. So the first thing I'm going to do is look for common factors between the numerator and the denominator. So let me list my common factors of 9 and 36. So I know that my factors of 9 are 1 and 9 and 3. Those are my factors of 9. Now let me list my factors of 36. My factors of 36 are 1 and 36. I know that 2 times 18 is 36. I know that 3 times 12 is 36. I know that 4 times 9 is 36. And 6 times 6 is 36. So now let me circle my common factors. So 3 and 3 are both common factors, and the number 9 is also a common factor between 9 and 36. Now if you wanted to take my shortcut, I would use the greatest common factor of 9, and I would take that and divide it by both numbers. So 9 divided by 9 is 1, 36 divided by 9 is 4. Now if you don't use the greatest common factor and don't see that 9 goes into both numbers evenly, you can use the number 3. So I can rewrite this 9 over 36, and I can take the numerator, 9 divided by 3, and the denominator divided by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, 36 divided by 3 is 12. But I see that 3 and 12 both share a common factor of 3, so I can divide both the numerator and the denominator by 3 again. 3 divided by 3 is 1, 12 divided by 3 is 4. And I get the same answer of 1/4. Okay, now let's take a decimal and write it as a fraction. So 35 hundredths. So we can write this as a fraction how we say it. 35 hundredths or 35 1/100ths. Now I see that both the numerator and the denominator have a factor of 5 because their one place has a 5 or a 0. So 35 divided by 5 and 100 divided by 5. So 5 is a common factor of both. 35 divided by 5 is 7, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So the simplified fraction is 7/20. Okay, mathematicians, it's time for you to pause the video and try it on your own. When you're finished, unpause the video and press play for me to reveal the answers. Okay, check your answers, correct any mistakes or errors that you made. Then let's do a quick review. Remember when we simplify fractions, we look for a common factor between the numerator and the denominator besides 1. Then we divide by that factor, and we divide it down until there are no other factors besides 1 that the numerator and the denominator have in common. So 6 and 25 don't have any other factors in common besides 1. Same with all of the other fractions written in simplest form. Okay, for our next skill, we're finding the least common denominator. Remember that the least common denominator, or the LCD, is the least common multiple of the denominators of 2 or more fractions. So it's the smallest common multiple of 2 numbers. So let's find the least common denominator of both fractions. So for 3/5 and 2/3, I'm going to circle the denominator, and I'm going to list all the multiples of 5 and all the multiples of 3. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, and I'll stop there. Now I'll list the multiples of 3. 3, 6, 9, 12. I don't see any common shared multiples yet. 15. Okay, 15 is shared as a common multiple between 5 and 3, and it's the smallest common multiple that they share. So the least common denominator of 3/5 and 2/3 is 15. Now let's find the least common denominator of 7/12 and 3/8. So I'm looking at the denominators of 12 and 8. So first I'll list the common multiples of 12. So 12, 24, 36, 48, 60, and I'll stop there. And because I know that 8 goes into 48 and 8 goes into 24. So now let me list the multiples of 8. 8, 16, 24. So the least common multiples between 12 and 8 are 24. So the least common denominator is 24. Okay, it's your turn to pause the video and try it. Find the least common denominator of both fractions. When you're finished, press play and I'll reveal the answers. Okay, compare what you got to these answers. Fix and or correct any mistakes or errors made. The least common denominator between 4/5 and 5/6 is 30. And the least common denominator between 3/10 and 9/4 is 20. For our next skill, we'll be changing mixed numbers to fractions greater than 1. So what I like to do is I multiply the whole number by the denominator. So 9 times 5 is 45. And then I add it. So I add that answer to the numerator. So 45 plus 2 is 47. So I end up with 47 over 5. So this denominator stays the same. So 9 and 2/5 is the same as 47/5. Now let's turn 3 and 1/8 into a fraction greater than 1. So first we multiply the whole number by the denominator, so 3 times 8, which is 24. And then I add that number to the numerator, so 24 plus 1 is 25. So 24 plus 1 is 25, and the 8 just stays as the denominator. So it's 25/8 is the same thing as 3 and 1/8. Okay, it's time for you to pause the video and try it on your own. Write these mixed numbers as fractions greater than 1. When you're ready, press play and I'll reveal the answers. Okay, it's time for you to compare your answers to these answers. Correct any errors or mistakes that you made. 2 and 5/6 written as a fraction greater than 1 is 17/6. 3 and 1/5 is the same thing as 16/5. 6 and 2/3 is the same thing as 20/3. And 1 and 3/4 is the same thing as 7/4. So just to review, first you multiply the whole number by the denominator, add that number to the numerator, then you keep the same denominator. For our next skill, let's practice changing fractions greater than 1 into mixed numbers. So I know that fractions are just a division problem. So I can take 14 divided by 5. But instead of solving as a decimal, I'm looking for a remainder. So 5 doesn't go into 1, but 5 goes into 14 2 times. 2 times 5 is 10. Subtract, we get a remainder of 4. So it's 2 remainder 4 over the denominator of 5. So 14/5 is the same thing as 2 and 4/5. Okay, now let's try 5/3. 5/3 is just 5 divided by 3. So 3 goes into 5 1 times. 1 times 3 is 3. Subtract, we get 2. So we get 1 remainder 2. That remainder means we have 2 out of 3. So 5/3 is just 1 and 2/3. Okay, it's time for you to pause the video and try it on your own. So you are converting these fractions greater than 1 to mixed numbers. When you're finished, press play and I'll reveal the answers. Okay, here are the answers. Take time to correct your work or any mistakes that you made. 10/3 is the same thing as 3 and 1/3. 46/5 is the same thing as 9 and 1/5. 47/4 is the same thing as 11 and 3/4. And 9/19 is the same thing as 2 and 1/9. Congratulations, you've made it to our funny finale. Which king loved fractions? Henry VIII. Ha ha ha. Thank you for taking the time to watch my video. So long, scholars.